Okay, we got something from way back. Not way back, it's not that far, it's only June, right? Seems like 5 minutes, doesn't it? Right, beep, beep, beep. Welcome to the Court of the EDI Jester. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night. How the devil are you? Oh, I've got a drip on my mug. Children. Let's talk about children. I've got an article from the Daily Telegraph, which is from a while back, to be fair, but that is worth revisiting in light of what's been happening in Parliament over the last few days, in light of what's been happening in the House of Lords in the last few days, to give you an example of what can happen here when certain things go awry. Okay, so we've got by Alison Bagley in the Telegraph in June, and a reminder to look at this came from Graham Linehan. So thank you, Graham. And it's about a primary school in Kettering, and a local rag wrote something about it and then took it down quick, and the Telegraph got it. So I thought this is worth revisiting in light of what's been happening in the House of Lords and the Houses of Parliament, because we want to keep on the ball, don't we? I'll become a warrior teacher, by the way. It's this week. People start enrolling this week. Go and have a look at my pinned tweet. Also become a Jesterite, subscribe, the usual, right? So Kettering Primary School children parade with pride at a Rainbow Day celebration, and they got a picture of all these kids with these trans hats on and, you know, all the nonsense. LGBTQI, hands, knees and bumps, daisy people. Pupils and staff at a Kettering primary school have celebrated a special Rainbow Day inspired by the LGBTQ plus communist pride events. Okay? As a gentle reminder to those of you that might be watching for the first time, there is no such thing as the LGBTQ plus hands, knees and bumps and daisy community, right? It's just a loose gathering of nutters, right? Nothing to do with gays and lesbians. Wearing colourful festival clothes, Hayfield Cross Primary School enjoyed a day of learning, followed by a gathering in the school playground with music, dancing and games. Organiser class teacher Hannah Shrive, sporting floral dungarees, led the children around the playground in a joyful parade. One said, "One of our school values is remember that I commanded you to be strong and brave, so don't be afraid. The Lord your God will be with you everywhere you go." From Joshua 1:9. So it fits in with our vision to be strong and brave. Right? After an all-school assembly, each year group had a different book to focus on, including different types of families, lessons including making the different rainbow flags. Miss Shrive added, for year groups up to year three, I know, year 3, we look at gender stereotypes. Year 4, 5 and 6 looked at the issues in the news about LGBTQ plus issues. Year 6 looked at queer role models and the history of pride. The history of pride has got nothing to do with queer. Then you've got pictures of this woman, right? And then pictures of the kids. Which led me to think, I know it's a historic story, but it's interesting, isn't it? I can bring this on. Which led me to think about the problem of affinity groups. Now, Gillian Keegan, who was seen recently being, talking in Parliament and in various other places, unfortunately to me, doesn't seem to get it yet. She's moved, obviously, in terms of her understanding of the whole thing. I do believe that she's moved, but I don't think she gets it. Now, you let me know in the doobers whether you think she does and whether you think what's going on at the primary school is acceptable. I mean, share this and then say, I do not think this is acceptable. Do you think it's acceptable for primary schools to be doing this? So Keegan still doesn't seem to get it, and that worries me a bit. She's moved. I trust Kemi more than I trust Keegan, obviously, for obvious reasons. And Kemi's barnstorming performance in Parliament gave me succor, to say the least. But it does get me thinking about affinity groups, right? So here's my 2 penny worth. If you're the Department of Education, which Keegan is, if you're the Department of Education, I don't think it's difficult to ban affinity groups in schools that are based on identity. So I'm very interested to hear from you about what you think about that idea as perhaps a what do you call it, campaign or whatever it may be. So if you've got an affinity group for people that like colouring in clay rabbits, I don't know what do kids do these days, or painting toes. I really don't know anything about children, do I? Right, okay, great. Whatever it is that kids do, fine. If you want to have an affinity group about, not Babcock, what's it? Badminton, right? If you want to have an affinity group about badminton, I don't care. If you want to have an affinity group about ocelots arseholes. I don't care, right? Have your affinity group, which is about hobbies and learning and knowledge, right? Why is it hard for the Department of Education to go with immediate effect? No affinity groups that are based upon the protected characteristic or any characteristic that is identity driven are allowed in schools. Is that something that it would be difficult to do, or do you think it is something that would be fairly simple to use? I think it would have a number of knock-on effects, not least of all, if you say, no, not having it, none of your affinity groups with your LGBTQs, Andes and Bumps and Daisy, no, none of that. Least of all, what it would do is send a message elsewhere. I mean, companies have them. I've got mates who've been, because they're gay, because they're pufters, right? Who've had phone calls saying, you're a pufter. Do you want to be in our affinity group? Oh, right, where does it sit? Under the women's group. That was the answer. No thanks. Shabbily quaffers again. Right. It's happened to my mate. Right? Twice. No, I don't. That's my private life. But you're supposed to bring your whole self to work. Yeah, no thanks. It's insane. The whole thing's insane. Affinity groups. So why not start at the beginning? Start with the schools. Why does a school need an LGBTQ plus hands, knees, and bumps of daisy people group? For children, you don't. Except, of course, for one reason, and that reason is that you want to indoctrinate children into a hard left, equity-driven, identitarian, anti-human, anti-science, anti-reality cult. That's the only reason it would exist. There is no other reason. Secondly, if there's any of the lawyery types out there lawyering up lately, I have a question. Why can't we sue individual teachers? Or can we sue individual teachers? Can you get individual teachers in front of the courts? So we find an activist teacher, we crowdfund to take that activist teacher to court. You don't need to do 2 or 3 and the rest will fall in line. Anybody know if that's possible? Is it a doable thing that we can sue the damn thing, sue them? Is it? I don't know. Lawyers tell me. Because it strikes me as these affinity groups are really problematic. There's a word that they use all the time, isn't it? It's so problematic. You remember Aaron's wonderful video? It's so problematic. So I think that it's worth answering that question. Is it possible to sue the teachers themselves? That's what I'm asking. Anybody know? Lawyers? Naomi? I need you. Or is there another way to do it? Parents, should it be the first thing that you do? Here's a good one. Is get a few parents together and go, I'm very unhappy with your affinity groups based on identity. Here you are, parents. Start doing that. Let's get them a different way. Right? Let's get them a different way. I don't know. Maybe I'm just a nutter. You can tell me, as you always do, in the Dubris, whether or not I'm a nutter. Me, I'm off to say hello to the latest warrior teachers who begin enrolling this week. Oh, it's so exciting. You should come and join us. But that's, enough guff. Off you pop. Bye.